It is spring 2026. The Ukraine war has entered its fourth year, with no current end in sight, tying up Russia's forces. Israel's war on Gaza continues, with Israeli troops occupying the majority of the Gaza Strip. Public opinion increasingly turns against them, as more and more images of Palestinian dead spread around social media. Benjamin Netanyahu presents evidence to the Trump administration that Iran has produced low-yield nuclear warheads and will imminently have working delivery systems. Trump meets with top military leaders and assesses the threat posed by a nuclear-armed Iran. After a massive U.S. build-up in the Persian Gulf, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian goes before the United Nations asking for action to be taken against this Western aggression. Once intelligence is received that China plans to sell Iran J-10 fighter jets armed with PL-15 long-range air-to-air missiles, Trump gives the authorization for Operation Golden Eagle to commence. After decades of tension, the war with Iran has begun.
Part 3 of my U.S.-Iran war project. So this is going to be day 1 of the air operations. I'm using DCS World. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's a combat flight simulator. It's been around for many, many years, and it's really the only main one in the market nowadays. There used to be several of them back in the day, but there is BMS Falcon, which is specific to the F-16. They do, I think, the F-15 as well. And I believe they're doing a new one on that, an updated one, but mainly it's DCS World if you're doing combat flight simulation. So in this operation, there's several things going on. I talked about it in my last video where I talked about editing the mission. I have a link to that in the description. Check it out if you didn't watch it. I'm leading a flight of an F-18 Charlie, Legacy Hornet. It's a stand-in for the Super Hornet. This is in 2026, so of course the Legacy Hornet has been retired, but we now have the Super Hornets, and this is part of the VFA 83 Rampager Squadron, and we are doing a strike against a nuclear facility. Taking off, there's 3 carrier strike groups engaged in this conflict. Like I said, you need to see the previous ones in the video to kind of understand, but this conflict is being modeled out. It's a story I'm writing, and it's being modeled out. The narrative is being dictated by different facets of wargaming. The main one being the Next War Iran board wargame series. But I am doing certain like character point of views, and one of them is from a naval aviator, part of the Rampagers, goes by the call sign Flaps, and there'll be a link to the story that goes along with this encounter in the description on my Substack page, so I highly recommend you check it out. Just a very short story, it's not going to be very long, but it goes along with this kind of mission, and it's really the missions and the different wargamings to drive the narrative. So we have, as part of this, there's multiple operations going on. So we have, not all of it is going to be modeled in DCS World because there's limitations in the simulation itself. It doesn't have a lot of modern aircraft, but we do have SEAD, suppression of enemy air defense operations, being modeled with the F-16 Wild Weasels. You have strikes going on from B-2 stealth bombers. You have strikes going on from these Legacy Hornets. You have anti-ship operations, and you also have potential anti-air operations. There's a randomized chance that the Iranians will try to mobilize interceptors. So part of the background of the story is the fact that they have not been outfitted with newer aircraft yet. These strikes are taking place prior to that point. When I say newer, the J-10C is not exactly a new aircraft by any means, but it would be newer compared to newer systems, upgraded systems compared to their current Iranian Air Force, which is mainly made up of hodgepodge of stuff. F-14s and F-4s from back when Iran and the United States were allied together. There's still some F-14s still going. They're the only ones in the world. Only the U.S. and Iran ever operated the F-14. And the U.S. retired their entire fleet and basically just scrapped them because they didn't want any parts or weapon systems ending up in Iranian hands. So there's a lot of people out there still think that was the finest fighter jet ever created. Probably a lot of them were fans of Top Gun. But they also still operate the F-4. And they have some MiG-29s, some F-5s, I believe. I don't think any are meant for operational conflict, but there's enemy air defense network here, layered. So we have some longer range systems, some medium range, short range, man pads, AAAs. We're going to make a strike on a nuclear facility. And right now we are kind of just orbiting, letting some of the seed operations take place. It's interesting, kind of in this scenario, while we're not a specific seed, we don't have a seed armament or meant to do a necessary seed mission. We are meant in some ways to kind of go in with the B-2 B-2 stealth bombers, and being non-stealth, the idea would be that if there's still any, enemy air defenses out there firing, that we're going to kind of draw their fire, as well as interceptors, and draw their fire away from the more valuable B-2s. Interestingly enough, from an air-to-air perspective, especially now after this recent Pakistan-Indian conflict, a lot has been made about the Chinese PL-15 missile, and the fact that it more than likely shot down a Rafael. If you are part of the Indian social media, don't come jumping on me. I think it's reasonable based on evidence that shoot down did happen, all but confirmed by France and the United States. Believe me, I'm not anti-Indian at all. Don't have one side or the other, but I think a lot of people have focused strictly on the fact that a couple of their fighters got shot down, and not how after that initial engagement, India completely dominated the conflict. But it did prove that it was the first time a Chinese system had been used in a combat setting, and it was at least somewhat effective. And so, there's a lot of conclusions have been drawn from that when we really don't know. We don't know how many PL-15s were fired. We don't know a lot of details, and we probably won't. But we at least know that it did make some kills. It does sound like a couple of them did land intact, that either failed or whatever happened. The point being that we seem to be moving into a definitive beyond visual range world. And the Super Hornet is the only U.S. fighters currently that's known equipped with what we would consider a very long-range air-to-air missile. That's the AIM-174, which is repurposed, an SM-2, which is a ship-based anti-air weapon that's been repurposed as an air-to-air weapon. So it'll be interesting. So in this conflict, it takes place next year. So far, there's no known instances of the U.S. modifying them to be carried on any of the U.S. Air Force fighters. Probably wouldn't be the large size of the missile, wouldn't be conducive to a stealth fighter, but the like a missile truck, like a F-15EX, you could see it potentially being deployed there. Maybe there's some reasons it can't be. I don't know. I'm not. Wouldn't say I'm an aviation expert by any means, but I can see it could be a logical thing. So. Now in this conflict, while DCS lacks it, when we do the Command Modern Operations version, there will be F-22s, there'll be F-35s, there'll be plenty of assets. And Command Modern Operations does a much better job modeling the stealth and electronic warfare, electronic counter warfare. So we have some growlers. And this is more, again, really just to drive a narrative from this person's point of view. So when I write the short story to go along with the command monitor operations sim, it'll be much more of a high level overview versus this very much from this character's point of view. So we're still orbiting, like I said, letting this seed do their mission, which is to draw that enemy fire.
For the target shaft now.
They're in position. I'm going to cut across the axis and try and...
But Iran still has capable systems, maybe a little bit older, but they still have capable systems operating. That's what the seed flights are trying to take out right now, or at least draw their fire. A little overcast, so you can see on the flare on the right side, going over some population centers here. We still got a ways to go till we get to the nuclear facility. So one interesting thing too, I usually fly in VR, but I haven't been happy with any of the recordings made in VR up to this point. So I fly, for recording I fly in, I would say a flat, because it's actually a curved monitor. It's a 49-inch curved monitor, but it was kind of hard for me to try to adjust the camera because I didn't have a track IR system. So what I used was, there's these two programs I downloaded, and I used my existing webcam, and it does a head tracking, AI track, and I believe it's open track. Anyways, if you do DCS World, if you don't have a track IR system or you don't have a VR, leave me a comment and I can walk you through how to set that up, because it was a little tricky. I mean, there was a guide I found online, but I was having a lot of issues, especially with the AI track and what settings to set, curve settings and everything. And I feel like I have a really good setup on it now. I was really happy with it. So definitely changed the ball game for being able to record with, but also having situational awareness, better situational awareness. Because I'm not a great pilot by any means, not like some of the people out there. So good luck if I'm trying to land on a flat screen without, being able to, freely move the viewpoint. I mean, let's be honest, even in VR, I'm not a great pilot. Or aviator, since this is a U.S. Naval fighter jet here. Some people take this really serious when it comes to flight sim, and it's funny, there's always a big debate online whether something like this is a sim or a game. And people argue back and forth, and I don't know why it's like an ego stroking thing for some people to just declare it's a game, or who cares? Just enjoy it. Everything is, meant to just be enjoyed. I mean, you can take it serious and stuff. It's a game that simulates fighter jets, or even simulates, fighters in general. Aerial combat. Is it perfect? By no means. I think it's probably one of the best flight models out there on some of this stuff, but available for civilians. But it's considered like study level sim. They're very complicated, a lot of systems you got to learn. And so I've been flying like the F-15 Strike Eagle for quite a while. So as I come back to the Hornet, I was struggling because I was forgetting how to do some simple tasks. Could have been a while. So I had recorded a few footages and had to come back and redo it because I kept messing up because I was forgetting even how to drop like JDAMs. You're going to see some footage in here. You've already seen some, but you'll see some like cutting into like the F-16 seed operations going on, some of the anti-ship stuff, just to see some of the other parts of the mission going on. So the character, like I said, you see the story. His call sign's Flaps. Came from his, actually a nickname from his wife, not due to any aviation matters. You can use your wild imagination, leave a comment if you think you know why, but he's been another short story I wrote, and so he's been around for a while. He's now a squadron leader. So well, he's been in other stuff. This would represent the first real combat, would be considered not a peer, but an enemy with at least some level of a more sophisticated air defense system. So operations up to this point have been anti-terror, Houthis. Apologies if I mispronounced that. But operations like that, not to say, I mean, there's, underestimate them as a enemy or anything by any means. We've seen them survive multiple bombings. Saudi Arabia had been making strikes against them for years. Israel, United States, Britain, and they proved to be extremely resilient and somewhat some level of ingenuity with their deployment of what would be considered not the most advanced air defense systems. But it doesn't have to be advanced. Air defense systems can be highly dangerous, even to modern fighters. You see in the FLIR there's a nuclear site. So approaching. We're still about 43 nautical miles out. We're about 3 minutes to end up in the zone to be able to launch this JDAM. See in the left screen, that would be the HSI screen. That's kind of just showing our heading and the zone for the JDAM's range. I alternate on here. Sometimes I'll have my situational awareness page. There's a screen at the bottom too, and that bottom screen's got the stores page on it. So I'll be ready to make a pass, drop JDAM, and then set up a follow-up run.
All wings report in.
Red 10 standing by.
Red 7 standing by.
Red 3 standing by. Red 6 standing by.
Red 9 standing by.
Red 2 standing by. Red 11 standing by.
Red 5 standing by.
Now this mission has a randomized chance for the MiG-29 interceptors to scramble. So that's something I won't know. It's a approximately 50-50 chance. So every time I get within this trigger zone set up in the mission editor, 50-50 chance that they're gonna activate and try to come up and shoot me down. I like to add randomized chances in any of the missions, since I'm the one, designing the mission. That way it can still be some level of a surprise. Just the same, just as there's these seed operations going on, I didn't want to make this a war zone per se of just having tons of SAMs flying at me. I have a Sinai Israeli against Egypt mission where you go through just a massive Egyptian air defense network, and you're just getting shot at constantly, and trying to get to a nuclear site to take it out. And it's a fun mission, but that wasn't the intention for this. I'm writing from this character's point of view, so what happens, the result of this mission is going to drive the narrative. So it's like, I didn't want to doom him automatically to death, but I wanted to make sure there was an opportunity that maybe he does get shot down, maybe he does die. And so there had to be an opportunity for that, but not so much a guarantee. Because I tell you, I did the Sinai one multiple times, and I got shot down every single time. Every time. Now, granted, part of the parameters is not trying to take out the systems, simply trying to evade the systems. And it's just my luck because there's a randomized chance. So I modeled every single Egyptian air defense system that's known, and there was a 25% chance that they would activate. So that means if there's 200, that 50 were, on average, 50 were going to activate. And it seemed like there was one SA-15 tour site right by the nuclear reactor that activated every single time. And almost every time it got me. One time I flew around the cooling towers and it actually hit the cooling towers trying to get to me. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought it was really cool when I actually was starting to get away, and then a Hawk system took me out because I kind of got, arrogant. All right, looks like we're gonna have to come in, boys, full throttle and keep them off our tails.
Well, that ought to keep those fighters off our back.
Right with you, boss.
Luke, at that speed, will you be able to pull out in time?
Be just like Beggar's Canyon back home.
There you can see on the FLIR page, you can see the nuclear facility fairly good. I've already dropped my J-dam. And now I am moving out and get some distance between me and the target to set up another pass. So as I was flying this, I didn't utilize other viewpoints. So you can do a change your viewpoint. You can see like from the perspective of a missile you fire off, all that stuff. But I was trying to keep it fairly close to what the actual flaps would have seen to kind of get into it. And my idea was that I was going to save the track and replay it and get some of that footage that way. Unfortunately, seems like, I don't know if it's just recent update to DCS World, the tracks are not replaying. So it's unfortunate, but so I don't have any of that footage. But I can tell you that the nuclear facility does take a beating. So I'm going to come around and do another pass. Still giving it a little more distance. Have to get about 20 nautical miles out, especially trying to get away if there is any enemy area interceptors, if there's any air defense sites still operational. I like to get some distance away from them before I start to make my turn and start to lose some speed or become a more vulnerable target. I've got my early warning radar, or RWR, so I haven't had any radars lock me up. Starting to make coming around for another pass here. So I don't want to talk too much about the actual narrative from the story. I just want you to check that out and read it if you're interested in it. If you're not interested, that's fine. A lot of my subscribers just come from my... There I was hitting up. get back to that. But I was just hitting up the AWACS. I was trying to find out if there was any enemy air fighters detected. So sometimes you get so laser focused, and this can, I'm sure, get real aviators in trouble at times. You get so laser focused on making these strikes that I stop thinking about, hey, is there an enemy bearing down on me? You know, maybe they don't have a radar lock yet, but maybe they're, you know, close. Maybe I need to start taking some evasive action. And so, come around for the next pass here. So what I'm saying is, most of my subscribers are here for the nuclear war simulation videos, and that's fine. I do have some people that have watched and subscribed for my DCS videos, and so I appreciate all my viewers, all my subscribers, and try to mix the footage sometimes, although my nuclear war simulation videos do tend to do the best. The interesting thing with this is there is a possibility of nuclear strikes, especially in the next war Iran war game. And so when I'm going off, you know, saw part of it that while perhaps the Israeli evidence of them assembling nuclear weapons was a little shaky, but they have in fact developed and miniaturized atomic warheads enough that they can fit them on a delivery system. Oh, I did jump out view one time. There you are. So I didn't leave you totally blank. Just fired off another JDAM. Fired off a third, and I'm retargeting a cooling tower and gonna fire off a fourth one. So I'm using the FLIR to designate additional targets. I'm now Winchester on the JDAMs. So the point, like a FA-18, whether it was the Legacy or the more modern Super Hornet, they're designated FA because they're both considered a fighter and an attack jet, which nowadays most modern ones are. Back then it was a little more of a novel idea. Usually you're either a strike attack, you know, like an A-10 or a A-6, A-7, or you're a fighter like an F-15, F-14. So now, far more multi-role, but the original Legacy Hornet was really kind of led the pack on that, so it was meant to be able to go in and do strike missions, but also defend itself. So, just commanded my flight to start hitting the nuclear facility. They were kind of watching me, covering me at that point. And now I'm kind of moving into covering them. I activated my air-to-air radar. I think I found out the hard way that where I got it mapped to my HOTAS for my radar elevation is not very effective. It's very hard to change it. It wants to, if you turn it just slightly, it'll go to the complete top or to bottom, and so dialing it in is very, very difficult. So I'm going to have to figure out an alternative button to map it to. So I'm going to figure that out. I'm using the F-15E grips from WinWing. So I find that it's better to use the F-15s that for both the Strike Eagle and the Hornet than to try to use the F-18 on the Strike Eagle. So we got a flight just hammering away at it. I'm kind of making a pass. I end up feeling pretty comfortable that there's no enemy interceptors on our tail. So soon here I'm going to go in and strafe the site with my guns. Part of this loadout I got had two of the Mark 82 JDAMs on each side. Had one AIM 120 AMRAAM and two AIM 9X Sidewinders. So I'm coming back around. So the main campaign is going to be dictated by the next war I ran, though. So while this can create a narrative on a smaller scale, the main narrative campaign is going to be next war I ran. And there is allocation for nuclear weapons, so I may end up using a nuclear war simulator as part of this series if one side or the other utilizes nuclear weapons. When I did Next War Korea, I did not utilize nuclear weapons on the North Korean side or chemical weapons. And there was reasonings behind that, kind of how I was foreseeing the conflict starting and going. So you see I'm coming in now, gonna hit it with the guns.
Altitude.
What's funny is I actually have the air-to-air mode on the guns, so thinks it's trying to shoot down another fighter. Oh well, still works. So the mission itself is successful. Day one operations. We were able to cause significant damage to the nuclear facility. We did have losses. So there was 3 F-16 Wild Weasels that were shot down. Just so happens all 3 were shot down by manpats. So as they were trying to get low and evading SAMs, they unfortunately became vulnerable. So several air defense sites were destroyed, though. We also saw the B-2 bombers come in, hammer the nuclear facilities as well. We saw numerous Iranian gunboats, a frigate, and one of their subs that were forced to surface all get sunk. The Iranian Navy was basically decapitated. Everything that came out to play, or at least was out, was sunk.
Altitude.
They did have 2 MiG-29s shot down. They were shot down by the Hornets. Their air force is still largely intact, though. Despite strikes on runways and air bases, they're still largely intact. They'd still be able to conduct air operations. Whether they want to take to the skies or not is hard to say. No one from the Rampagers were lost in these operations. So, Flaps does live on to fight another day. And the remainder is just the Rampagers returning back to the carriers and landing. But all in all, successful day with losses, unfortunately. Thanks everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please stay tuned. Going to have more of the narratives coming out. I still haven't done the actual intro narrative, which is set from Donald Trump's point of view, but I wanted to make this video because I just wanted to do some flying. So we'll see some more of the opening strikes. I think the next one may be Command Modern Operations. So for those who are a fan of that simulation, stay tuned. Thanks everyone. Hope you have a great day. If you're watching this in real time, have a happy Memorial Day. And recognize all those people who lost their lives in wars. And appreciate people's sacrifices around this world. Thank you.